Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. Today we're going to have a review of a game called The River. This is a game by two designers I hadn't heard of, Ismail Perrin and Sebastian Pauchon. By Days of Wonder. It's a game for 2 to 4 players that involves each one going down their own custom river. Actually, it's described as a river of many, many resources and bountiful assets. And your job is to go down this river, and as you do, you're collecting resources and building buildings along the river banks until the end of the game, with which those whoever built their river up the most successfully will win the game through, naturally, points. Anyway, let's take a look at components in a playthrough and then get back to our final thoughts. Alright, here we are looking at the surprisingly terse components in the box. It is the manual, of course, very small. It doesn't take long to learn this game at all. You have your main board, and on this board you will have sort of discovery tiles that you're going to use to place on your river as time goes on, as you meander down the river. You have the starting player marker. You've got these tokens that you get each time you build a building. You get one of these tokens. So obviously the faster you build a building, the more points you're going to get in addition to that. These are the locations for worker placement. You're going to have a set of workers and you're going to place them on this, and when you place them, you're going to be able to get resources based on the state of your river in your tableau. And finally, you have these objectives, and these are what you can see are the costs and then the point values that you get for such things. So you place 3 of these down here. All right. Then each player has a boat filled with wonderful meeples just ready to explore with you. You have your river placard. And the interesting thing is it's all linear, so you don't get to, there's no spatial fitting. You start here and you go down the river. Whee! Beginning with, you have resources, and these are, when you collect resources, you get resources for each one of these icons you have on your river. And this is where you put completed buildings when you're done. And of course, everyone has an extra meeple that they can get, but they don't get this one until afterwards. The other curious thing is, as you go down, is once you get to a certain point, some of your workers start to sort of feel like they want to just settle down and have some kids and hang with the pigs and fishes. And so you will lose them as time goes by. So it's kind of an interesting curve to the gameplay. And that's all that's in the box. That's it. So let's get into a sample gameplay turn so you can see what I'm talking about. Alright, so let's begin, shall we? We will have simulation of 2 players. We will have the blue guys versus the green guys. So, at the start of the game, tiles are laid out. This may be a little difficult to see with the shadows, but we'll bring it up close here. These are randomly shuffled tiles, and they're placed here. The first player gets the first player's ship. The albino ship that brings albino food. Alright, so the first thing each player does is pick one of these tiles to be their own. Looking at my thing, I'm going to go with this. And then the second player is going to get their choice, so he's probably going to grab this terrain tile there. There we go. Alright, now we're ready to begin. We fill the rest of these tiles up. I'm actually probably going to move that. These are very shadowy. I'm going to move them off so you can see a little bit better and ditch the glare. Alright, and there's that, and there's... Alright, so then, this is a 2-player setup. On the back of this board is a 3- and 4-player setup, but you have a few more tile spots, because otherwise it would get a little bit messy. Alright, so now we're ready to begin. The first thing we do, we have our target cards that we're trying to build, these buildings. So the first player, and it's very simple, takes one of the meeples on their ship and places it somewhere on the board for an action they want to perform. Any of these spots are the actions where you can see, like, you can put a meeple. Each in a 2-player game, as in the others, you can only grab up to 2 tiles for every round. A round is basically everyone using up all their meeples until they're all allocated to the board. So I'm going to pick a tile. Now, why would I pick a different tile over another? Well, it varies, but ultimately if I get this, for example, and I place it here, then whenever it's time for roll call to earn some stone or some wood, I'm going to get extra resources for it. Instead of the 1 native ones on my board, I'm going to get 1, 2, 3 stone and 2 wood, which works out well for objectives that have a lot of stone. This is the only one that really qualifies. And so then it's time for green to do their turn, and they also are going to follow suit, and they're going to grab a tile as well. Some tiles actually give you a resource, and they say you can have a victory point for every resource icon at the end of the game you have, up to 3. So it's capped at 3, but yeah, still something cool. I think he's going to join up and do this as well. He's going to place that there, and look, they're traveling along the river. All right, then next one, is he going to grab another tile? No, he's actually going to try and get resources. Now he places it there, and that's limited, so once he's placed there, his opponent cannot place there. He gets 1, 2, 3 stone, and these 3 stones have to be placed on, forget that happened, on storage. So storage matters too. In this case, I have a lot of storage, so I'm doing good. These extra 3 spaces, if you don't have enough storage, you can only put as much as you want of storage in. You can clear off space by returning resources, but that's rather inefficient, don't you think? All right, next. Oh, gotta put my little meeple there. He's for later. All right, so now we have space, storage. What are we gonna do? We can't do stone. We could go for the first player if we wanted to become first player for next time, but I don't think that's really all that valuable yet. We could also reserve one of these buildings. Now what's interesting is at any point you can place your worker there and it will let you build any of these buildings. You just pay the resources, grab the card, and place it on your underneath this spot in your tableau down the list. But if you reserve one, and you can reserve up to 2 of these, you can grab one and say, you know what, I'm saving this off. Now, the benefit of that is, one, I mean, this would not be a great one to do. It's only worth 2 victory points. But the great one that you can do is, because you're reserving it, when it's time to pay for it, you will get to take any one resource, in this case, wood's the only resource, and pay 1 less of it. So you pay all but 1 less resource, and that can be pretty interesting sometimes when you're limited or close to the end, and you're like, then you can, if you reserve it, it costs you an action, but at the same time, it saves your resources. Back to you, boatman. All right, so I have done a lot of stuff, but I haven't done anything terribly awesome yet. I don't really need more storage right now, so that's not an interesting idea. Resource-wise, I could always get some resources. We're going to get some wood. So we're going to do this, and we're going to take 2 wood. Why? Because I have 2 wood icons. And it's really tempting to just place the wood on the wood icon, but you have to remember it's the storage that matters in that regard. There we go. Finally, we have green going left, and he is going to... Wow. He's not looking like he's happy with the situation. He doesn't really have... He could get 1 brick, but that's not really all that interesting. Although there is brick coming up. So he, you know what? He's actually going to do this. He's going to go ahead and take another tile, and he's going to place it here. Now that covers his stone. That puts him in a bad sit. He's going to hope for stone the next time. But it will give him extra brick and victory points at the end of the game. Finally, we have this guy, and he is... Wow, he's kind of thinking he wants to also get in on the brick action. So he's going to go ahead and just do this, and he gets 1 lousy brick. 1 lousy brick, because he only has 1 icon. We'll actually put it up there. All right, last, we're going to do this. He is going to take over the first player marker, because he's going to want to get first fruits of the next round. So with that, we are done with the round. So what we do then is we just simply get rid of all the tiles we didn't want, and we replace them with new tiles, which is entirely correct. Ooh, whoa, that's a good one. All right, then we replace all of these, and everybody takes their meeples and puts them back on their boat. So we're done with that, and that's a round in its entirety. It honestly doesn't get any more complicated than that. We're going to do another round so you can see a little bit more of the action now. Okay, round 2, everybody's ready, but this time Green has the initiative, and he's going to decide what to do. He has brick, He has scant wood, but he has no stone. Now this makes an interesting option. If he chooses one of these buildings, he can get stone as much as he wants, or he can take this tile and get a one-time dump of 4 stone. He feels like living dangerously. Whoa, scary. Hold on there, Pilgrim. So he grabs this sucker, puts it over here. Now it covers up that spot so he has one less storage. And then he's going to take for himself 4 stone. 3 and 4. He has a plan. He has a plan. All right, now we're on to Blue. Blue's turn. Blue's looking at the various buildings that can be built, and he's looking at to see. He'd love to get that 10.1 there. 3 wood, 3 stone, and 3 brick. So how is he going to pull that off? Well, the wood and the stone, he doesn't have a lot of... The stone is an issue, because he's going to need that. He's going to try and go for it. He's got a plan. This might not be optimal, but he's going to do it. He's going to go ahead and take the stone, or the brick, sorry. And he's going to store that brick on this spot. And he's done. Now, we have our dear friend Green. And Green's wondering what he should do. Notice that we're low on stone. You don't get to just keep making assets forever. If you're out of stone, you're out of stone. And he's got a lot of stone. What he really needed was wood for this, but he was feeling greedy that day. And so he is going to... you know what? He's going to do something a little silly. He's going to go ahead and grab the wood. That's not silly at all, is it? He gets 2 wood because he has a spot here and a spot there. So that adds 2 wood for him. So he's a little closer to his goal than before. Now we have a conundrum. The wood is taken, so he can't grab that 3rd wood. So he's going to do something ultra silly and come here and grab a food. Now food is a valuable commodity. Unlike all the other spaces, these and these can be done as many times as you want. You can grab, as long as there are resources, you can grab a food. Food is a wild card. You can use it for any other type of resource required. And this is where you place your meeple when you actually want to build a building and put it in your tableau. He's going to do this and grab food. Now, who would have thought that albino buzzards would be such a hot commodity back in the river days? Anyway, same thing. He has to place it there. He's got a conundrum. Okay, so then it's now Green's turn again. Green is going to... He's going to do the same thing. He's going to grab that sucker. He's going to place that there. Like I said, this is an optimal play. This is demonstrative play. He's going to do a building. He's going to grab this here. It pains him to cover up the brick. Now he has a brick issue. But he needs space because he's got to build. He wants to build something cool, and he's a little bit low on things to be able to build coolness with. Well, not quite. He might be able to pull it off. All right. Finally, we have our last meeple here. What does he want? He wants to be able to get that wood, but he's not going to be able to do it. Not this turn. So, off we go. We're going to do... let's grab another buzzard. That'll work for next turn. All right, now we're done. And now we have Blue Guy, and Blue Guy is going to... He's going to go ahead and take the first player back. Man, not optimal. Alright, and that's the end of the next round. Notice we only we ditch these 3 buildings, and we replace them. We replace them here. Ooh. Alright. Oh, one of those is valid. He's going to be glad that he picked he got the first pick. We didn't grab any of these or build any of these. This is really suboptimal. I'm quite certain that if you play this right, you're going to be able to get a couple buildings out in the first couple turns of play. Clearly, I think less deeply when I have a video camera in my hand with much me rambling. Alright, so that's round 2. We're going to do one more round because I didn't get enough explained in this one. Next round. Now, look what we have here. He's going to instantly go, I have a plan, and I'm going to take that one. Why? Because he wants that 4... It's going to cost him that, and that's okay. Actually, it's not... You can place it over a good thing. Oh, actually, no, he's not going to do that. You know why? He lacks space. Oh, the pain. The pain. Alright, so he has a plan then. and he's going to do something a little bit differently. He's going to actually buy... Actually, no, he's going to do this silly thing again. He's going to grab the last albino buzzard and place it right there. All right, now it's green's turn. Now green is going to actually buy. Look at that, see? He's ready to actually buy something. So he's going to pay for this. Now how's he going to pay for it when he only has 2 wood? Well, he has 2 wood and he has 2 albino buzzards. And those are tasty, tasty young things. So those resources go back here. And he gets to build this small 2-point thing. It goes there. Now why? That's not so bad, because once you build something, every time you build it, you get to grab one of these tiles, and they go 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 0. So the earlier you build buildings, the more extra victory points you get for that. And that's cool. He has now built his first building. He is 1/4 of the way to finishing the game. Either the first person to get 4 of these, you finish the round. First person to fill up and go down the river, which, by the way, has to go sequentially. So you can't just pick and choose. It goes here, and then you got to build this way and that way. Very orderly. All right. He too wants to build. And actually, you know what? I noticed because I had taken this and had it in reserve, I only have to pay 3 wood, not 4 wood. So I want one of my buzzards back. There. He'll be handy later. All right. Now, does he have an opportunity to build something? He does. And he's going to. So he is going to build, as we've spoken. And he has an opportunity. Now, he'd like to... And he's going to build this. Now he didn't reserve it, so he's got to pay it full on, every single cost. So he's going to pay 3 wood, and that's where buzzard comes in for the wild card. He's going to pay 3 brick, another wild card, and he's going to pay his 3 stone. And he is going to get that, and that is going to give him as well the first one, and he gets a 5. So he's not, they're kind of neck and neck here. And then the resources go back so that they can be reused again. And there we go. So then we have opportunities. I'm actually just going to wrap it up here, because we could go on and on and on, and it's probably less thrilling if I'm just sitting there yapping about it. But the only couple things I didn't mention are, once you actually build on top of, say, one of these markers, at the end of your round, one of your workers settles down and leaves you, because he's got his own plans and visions of what he wants to do on the river. And you'll notice that over time, you will deplete your workers the more you build. You need to build more so you get more opportunities, but then you also lose your workers over time. And that's interesting. The other thing is, as you're building your tableau, and I'm just going to show you as an example here. Let's do this, this, and then say this. Is that when you're done and it's scoring time, the type of terrain in each column can be evaluated for score. If you have 2 of the same terrain types here, you're going to get 2 points. If you have 3, if you manage to get an entire column with the same terrain type, you're going to get 6 points for that column, for each column that specifies. So that's in-game scoring. That's why tile placement is so interesting. We never touched on this, but if you used this, you would be able to swap any 2 tiles. That would be important, say, if you had been building and your order was that, but it's getting towards the end of the game and you're like, oh, I'd like some points. You could flip that, and then suddenly instead of 2 points for this column, you get 2 points plus 2 points is 4 points. So at the end of the game, you get points for all of your buildings. You get points for how your columns went. You get 1 point for each 3 resources you still have. And finally, you get points for certain tiles, like this one, that say for every resource. So he would get 2 victory points for this. Add it all up, and you get your final score, and you win or lose. It has actually taken longer to do this video than it usually takes to play this game. So let's get on to my final thoughts and see what I really think of the river. Okay. Final thoughts on the river. First off, let's go over the cons, as I always do. The biggest con, I would say, of this game is its pretty much stark simplicity. There's a kind of a Days of Wonder curve, and I'm not necessarily adhering to the fact that the simplicity itself is wrong. In fact, you'll find out later it's not. It's kind of a Days of Wonder curve as time has been on. We've had Mystery of the Abbey, we've had, like, oh Lord, there's Architect Cleopatra, Memoir 44, Battle Lore, and stuff. And then we've gone into like Rise of Tribes and Yamatai that were more thinkers, that actually really like pushed for more thinking games. And it seemed like that was their trajectory. But then the last couple titles, Quadropolis was a little bit step down, and this is an even more stark step down in the difficulty and the complexity of gaming that we've come to expect from Days of Wonder from time to time. It's even simpler than Quadropolis in that there's no spatial management at all. It's a very linear experience. The other thing is Days of Wonder has always had over-the-top component quality. Like, boards are thick, it's very well textured, art is just astounding, components and figurines and models and all that stuff has always been just top-notch, over-the-top. These components in this game are high quality in comparison to just about any other company out there that doesn't specialize in Kickstarter minis. But it's not quite Days of Wonder at its finest. But I think I've been spoiled a little bit by the fact that Days of Wonder is crazy amazing at it. The other thing that's kind of a knock on it is that there are relatively obvious decisions to make in this game. It is not going to surprise you with subtleties, layered victory points, or ways that there's no weaving of different interactions that form to help compound victory point accrual or winning conditions. There's none of that. It's very simple. It's very obvious. It's very rhythmic. And those are the cons that I've seen about it. Now let's go over the pros, because I think they deserve to be mentioned. One of the pros is simplicity. And while I mentioned what makes the simplicity kind of a surprise and maybe not well received for some, I absolutely am ecstatic about this game, particularly at this time right now. And the reason for that is because it's what I like to call a slap play game. You slap down the board in the middle, you slap down your tableau with whatever it is, and you get to playing. And it's really, really fast to set up and get rolling on this game. Easy to teach, easy to set up, easy to roll into. That's a win right now for me. It only has the components it needs. It didn't wow me with the components, but it also impressed me with the components. I think the artwork on the river banks is stellar. I think the icons are clear and vivid and show absolutely the sense of purpose of what they are meant to do. Very consistent iconography. And honestly, it bridges the gap between simple, obvious play, which it has, admittedly, but with enough meat and decision-making for me to satisfy gamers who don't mind a game that kind of autopilots the ship while you're making interesting choices along the way, because you're going down this river whether you like it or not, so enjoy the ride. The other thing is the meeple curve is apropos. You start off, in most games, you start off and you've got just enough meeples, and then your big thing in your mind is, I gotta get more meeples. More meeples equals more actions compound, particularly in worker placement. Here you start with a perfectly serviceable amount of meeples, and then over time you'll get another one, but then you start to lose it. And you don't lose it so starkly that you feel like, oh man, I'm just getting robbed here. I got one meeple left kind of thing. No, it definitely contours well, so that as the game goes on, you're making the meeples the commodity. And honestly, it's interesting because you do have that choice when it's time to put a tile down. It's not just, is this tile got value, or what do I lose when I put this tile on top of something that was giving me resources. But now you also have that other third vector, which is saying farewell to advantageous friendship. And so that's interesting. I really like that about this. The final thoughts are, I give this a 7.5, probably out of 10, probably, and I think it might even rise up above that, despite the fact that it is at its heart the simplest Days of Wonder game I think I own. You're meandering ever forward, streaming of game flow like Tokaido. It's got light resource management that strikes me as a Stone Age kind of equivalent, except for the leather cup of man stench. There's a resource building engine that goes to a victory point engine building that reminds me of Seven Wonders. And it has the ease of teaching of Emotep or even Splendor. It's really not hard to explain to people what to do. There are choices, but not too many. There are actions, not too many. There are consequences, not too many. I love it. I really do. I finished... I understand the contrast of complexity versus simplicity. I just finished a conflict of simulating the Israeli-Syrian conflict at the Golan Heights in the Yom Kippur War of 73. I just finished that before I went into this game. So there's, if anybody has a delta of complex to simple, that's me, and yet I still found it profoundly entertaining. I know that there has been, the reviews and stuff, it's been painted as kind of a letdown, for the simpleness and just not feeling like it had the Days of Wonder mystique to it. But personally, I consider it one of the most important games that I'll own for the holiday season and beyond, because I will bring people in, I will teach them this game, and I will enjoy it as I play it with them. How awesome is that? Value-wise, despite its subdued impression, components-wise and depth-wise, I rank it solidly in the top half of Days of Wonder games I've owned. I honestly never want to be so old and so knowledgeable game-wise that I can't just enjoy a solid, pleasant, Zen-like game. The same way I don't want to ever get too old to have Christmas presents. Anyway, I think this is a great game for folks who want a gem that definitely walks the line between simple and still engaging, for both groups that don't play games often and gamers that still want to challenge but know that they're not going to be able to bring someone into Golan 73, the simulation World War conflict. So with that, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Harebrained Games.